Pop Culture Pastor.
So, Cody, one day I just want to go about my entire day at work, at the radio station, as a pastor and a minister, any other things I might be doing church-wise, even here recording the pod, but as in character as Nick Cage. Because I think that would be fun. Make people react a little bit.
What about as Nick Cage as Nick Cage?
What about Nick Cage as his character in Con Air? I could wear a wig, let it flow in the breeze. But I'd have to be very Nick Cagey.
I honestly think that you should do like a whole week of caginess.
Yeah. We should do an episode where things they could have added Nick Cage to that really would have improved the story. So easy stuff like Star Wars, some Nick Cage into the Star Wars universe, or Jackson. We're getting ready to talk about the Rocky-verse tonight. What about Nick Cage in the Rocky-verse? And who would he be?
Someone's son that no one wants.
Paulie's son.
Paulie's son. Paulie's illegitimate son that nobody knew about?
Yes. Nick Cage in the Jurassic World franchise, the last movie, would have just spiced things up.
Oh, that would have made that movie, like the absurdity of that movie, work. In my opinion, you drop Nick Cage in the middle of Jurassic World Dominion, it instantly goes from like a 4 to an 8.
And then you have Cage and Goldblum at their cagiest and Goldblumiest.
I think that might be the winner. I think if you add them to Jurassic World Dominion, it doubles the effectiveness of the movie. You don't even have to change the story. Just add him as a character wherever. And tell him, he's like, what's my motivation? What's my character? He's like, just be you.
I got this.
We won't even explain who you are as a character. We didn't explain the pilot. We just dropped a weird character in there. You just be Nick Cagey.
Oh, yeah.
That instantly makes that movie. Did you see that, Jackson? Did you see Jurassic World Dominion?
I was present in the theater for it.
Were you there with me?
I've got the giant popcorn bucket for it.
Jackson's like, I blocked it out of my memory. I have PTSD.
I repressed it.
It does not exist anymore.
All I can remember is Chris Pratt.
Flaming locusts.
Yes. That's pretty biblical, though.
It was.
It was very plaguish. Okay. This is Pop Culture Pastor, the podcast. Our main pod, the one everyone waits for. This week we are reviewing Creed 3.
Loosely based on my real life story.
Yes, absolutely. That's why you heard Jackson Chauncey's voice. He is a fellow geek of the round table. And for this episode, even though he has many specialties, he is our geek of the Rocky-verse.
I'll take it.
Yes. He's an expert in everything Rocky, and I'm actually looking forward to this later. Your new definitive ranking of the Rocky-verse movies.
There's going to be some surprises in there.
There will be.
I wouldn't have it any other way. But right now, I'm Dave. Cody's here.
I am.
We're going to start with a couple news items, little geek news to get us going here this week. I don't know if you heard this, Cody, because this was in the last 24 hours. But according to trusted sources, quote unquote, as I make the signals with my fingers.
I'm believing it without you even saying it.
Of the Tales from the Mod Q from the Marvel Studio spoiler subreddit. That just says it's solid, right?
Yeah. Don't get more official than that. New
Most
York
trusted
Times.
name in news.
Someone on Reddit is saying that James Spader is set to reprise his MCU role as Ultron in the movie Armor Wars.
Well, his character's completely armor, so sure, why not?
He's technically Stark Tech.
Yeah.
And I'm so here for that. God, can we just take a second and recognize that Avengers Age of Ultron is one of the more underrated of the MCU movies? I think it's a great movie. And Ultron as a character with James Spader's voice is perfection. I love that movie.
I enjoy it. Where I have issue, I guess, is like at times it feels a little cheesy, and then they also kill Wanda's brother.
Yeah, that was weird. That's looking back, that's still a weird choice for me, given that Scarlet Witch is so important, and that doesn't happen in the comics. Quicksilver is very much alive and well and interacts with his sister. So yeah, that was weird. That's a weird choice, but
Well, he gets a second shot. Now he's Kraven the Hunter, so.
we do not discuss the Sony verse movies. We will eventually. We'll have to, because they'll keep making these dumb movies.
Venom.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I'm in agreement with Dave. I felt Ultron was a pretty strong entry.
And he's not like
Like
there's
David
no way to
Spader's.
kill him off. You can bring him back because he's a program. He can download himself or upload himself into, I don't know the terminology. I don't
He
know
can
what's
do a
correct there.
full Megan, as the kids say these days.
But anyways, that's the big rumor, and I thought I'd bring that up and say I'm excited about that. I'm excited about Armor Wars in general because that's a story from the comic books. We haven't heard much about it. Like, there's not much out there about it except for Don Cheadle is attached to it to be, obviously a War Machine, and I would assume Riri Williams, Ironheart, would be in that as well. But we'll see.
And like the Wakandans in their new armor.
Yeah.
Because that's part of evidently that story.
No, well, not
Or
originally.
It connects.
So the original Armor Wars is back in the 80s, and Stark's obviously not dead like he is in the MCU.
Rest in peace.
But it deals with the proliferation in the world of Stark tech, which they could easily fit that story and adjust it for the current MCU. So I think it's going to be really good. I think it's going to play into a lot of continuing storylines that are Earthbound, not the cosmic stuff. So yeah, pretty psyched. Pretty psyched about Ultron and James Spader. Yeah, I can tell you guys are too.
Yeah.
Shazam! Fury of the Gods continues to approach. And
Huzzah.
you know where I stand on the DC movies coming out this year, and I'm a little wary, but
that they're a waste of space since we're restarting everything.
Right.
To
right.
rephrase Dave.
It feels weird. It feels weird. Thank you for agreeing with me.
I'm not agreeing. I just listen.
Hey, early returns. Apparently, they've given it out to some critics. They can't give full reviews, but they can give their little tweets, Courtney Howard says, Shazam's a super-powered sequel that packs a punch, a super solid, super fun, and super smart blend of hilarity, heart, and heroics. It ramps up the action and irreverence to a delightful degree. Helen Mirren, Lucy Liu, and Rachel Ziegler are MVPs. Love the dragon. So, yeah, that's a good
Team old ladies.
pretty positive, pretty positive, non-specific review. Jamie Broadnax says Shazam continues to lean into his silliness and immaturity in this sequel, which tells us this franchise will remain to keep these films funny, light, and slapstickish. The sequel comes with more action, compelling villains, and a complicated anti-hero, which I found that interesting because who's that?
Is that the dragons? I don't know.
Eric Eisenberg says Shazam! Fury of the Gods is super fun and a worthy sequel, not a game-changing comic book movie, but it wins you over with its characters and energy. Has some real surprises and a knowing sensibility that suit it well, plus some creative and exciting monster action. So what you're getting is they're mentioning the heart, that it's based around a family, like with an adopted family.
And Billy is a teenager.
Yeah.
So he's a teenager that turns into basically Superman.
They're also a lot of them mention Zachary Levi specifically, saying he's fun, that there's the irreverent kind of slapstickish nature is there still. And then the dragon. There's apparently a dragon in the movie. So
you see it in the trailer.
yes, yeah. It's like, over a baseball field or something.
He threw a truck at a dragon.
Yeah. Yes, and he makes that line.
So that's, hey, I'm mildly encouraged here.
So I honestly think that it's going to go a lot like Shazam 1, that you're going to have your fans that really like Shazam, the comics, and they're going to be like, oh, this is fun. And then you're not going to hear much about it. Like the people that like
you don't think it's going to make much buzz?
The people that like the first one, I think, are going to like the second one. And the first one didn't do like, holy cow, this is Avatar level box office monies.
I mean, given how poorly Quantumania is faring among critics, this is mildly encouraging, these early returns.
Yeah. And so I don't think it's going to reset the box office. I think it'll be about the same as Shazam 1 with the box office numbers, but remain to see if it's as good, better, or hot trash.
Jackson, where are you at with Shazam? What do you
I was waiting for him to look at me when he said people who could not possibly care about this.
Yes, that is Jackson. He
Cody
didn't like
and
the
I have
first
had
one.
discussions about it, and I VOD maybe.
Yeah.
Cody buying probably.
Where are you at with DC in general, the DC comic movies? Is that a thing for you or no?
I like to think I'll give anything one chance, but as a whole, there's not really anything there for me.
It's just not your wheelhouse.
No.
That's okay. We got lots of geeks in the round table, and there's like, listen, Scotty, he loves the DC.
Someone has to.
My
And
mom's
that
name
is Scotty
is
and I.
Martha still runs deep in these veins.
I mean, come on. They built a whole movie around that.
It was at that point I was like, I don't know that I need this universe.
That is correct. That is the correct answer. Collect your prize at the door. We have a take-home Pop Culture Pastor take-home game.
I am waiting for my
What
five
Marvel
timers
movie
jacket.
was it that I'm like, they pulled a Martha and I got, everyone's like, it wasn't that bad. I'm like, it was that bad. And it was so bad, I have now blocked out what movie I said that it happened in. Most recent phase.
Was it
Shang-Chi?
No. Was it Doctor Strange? I don't know.
Oh, someone that's a lifelong listener of the show.
You're really
Listen.
making a point here when you can't think of the movie.
We drop a lot of content. We can't remember everything we said.
And also, I was so disgusted by the movie doing that and no one being like, oh my goodness, they just pulled a DC. Because they literally pulled a DC.
Cody had to stick up for DC and we all ignored him. I have no idea. I don't remember it. I remember you saying it, actually. I just don't remember what movie it's from.
So,
was it Black Panther?
It might have been.
Was it Black Panther with the moms at the end? Where they're flashing back and forth between Namor's mom. Yeah.
Namor.
I have a mom. You have a mom. They both died.
Oh, now we're best
Common
friends.
ground. Yeah, you're right. It was kind of a Martha thing.
It was very much a Martha thing.
But they did it way better than DC did.
I don't think you could have done it much worse, but
Yeah. There's validity to it.
see,
I don't think I disagreed with you hardcore in the moment of that.
I felt everyone did. It was me against the world.
The whole world's against him. Jackson.
Always.
Okay. Those are the only news items we had. We're going to get right into the movie. So stick around. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. We Dave here, Cody. We got Jackson, our fellow geek of the round table, our Rocky-verse geek.
The non-Italian stallion.
Oh man, Jackson Chauncey, the non-Italian stallion. What are you? Are you what?
Something.
You're a mutt.
Yeah.
Me too. But he's here to help us navigate the waters of Creed 3. Creed 3. Still dominating the boxing world, this summary says. Adonis Creed is thriving in his career and family life when Damien, a childhood friend and former boxing prodigy, resurfaces after serving time in prison. He's eager to prove that he deserves a shot in the ring. The face-off between former friends is more than just a fight. To settle the score, Adonis must put his future on the line to battle Damien, a fighter who has nothing to lose. That's the movie's that's what they wrote for the summer.
Don't trust anyone named Damien. that
tracks.
The moral of the story.
Yeah. Is there ever been a good guy named Damien?
Not in the Omen.
Well,
he was just misunderstood.
So yeah, what you got here in its simplicity, and it's a simple movie. I think sometimes we overthink stuff. Like if to compare this movie to like Marvel Phase 4 movies, I think at the root of all the Marvel Phase 4 movies are good ideas, and they got way too out there with everything. Just make a simple movie. There's still movies out there like this one that prove that simple is fine.
Although I would say this might be the most complex of the Rocky cinematic verse.
I'm not sure how high that bar
That's
is.
not saying a whole lot. It's a very simple formula. And this one is not, like, as far as movie tropes go, like this one is a well-trod trope. So you got two guys, two friends. They come from the rough and tumble wherever you grew up from. In this case, it's L.A. Mm-hmm. It's Crenshaw. And you've got an event that happens, and their paths move away from each other. And one of them goes on to success. The other one goes to prison. And like, I love it when we get a character who's quote unquote the bad guy. You know, clearly Adonis Creed is the hero, but the bad guy is, and I'll talk about this later, you feel for him. Like you understand why he's the way he is.
I was rooting for Damien the whole movie.
Well,
before the movie even started.
Contrarian Cody strikes again.
Because we were in the Majors-ssance. And that's all I needed to know.
Well, I appreciate your consistency.
Yeah.
I listened to the Creed 1 pod today, and I heard I'm rooting for Kang. So,
so it's good. It's this story about two young men, friends. Their paths move away from each other. One of them on a path of just hardship, terrible hardship, and another on the path of success and the path of all his dreams coming true. And it could have been either men. I think that's like what they do a good job in the movie of saying is like that it could have been the other guy.
I will say that it separates itself from that typical trope in the response by Damien.
Yeah,
it goes heavy.
Yeah. And boy, we're gonna get into all these things. But he gets out of prison after so long. They do a great job narratively of kind of feeding us the event in question very slowly, so we see how it all plays out. How it was really no one's fault. That it's just one of these. We all have these events in life where it happens, where we fall victim to our emotions, and it's hard not to. They have a very good reason for getting in this altercation that we later find out, and it results in the friend coming out of prison, coming back to his friend, kind of using him, kind of pulling the wool over his eyes to put himself in a position to be a fighter, to be a boxer, to be successful. He does, and then it ends with the two men fighting. The face off, as every Rocky movie does,
of course,
and Creed movie. So broadly speaking, that's the movie. Is there anything broad that I'm missing that we need to talk about before we get into the good stuff?
I think you hit the bullet points.
I mean that it's also a family movie.
A family movie?
Yeah.
Like, so about Adonis's family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is a family in the movie, yes.
Well,
I don't know that it's a family movie per se.
There are scenes that are definitely all about family. Vin Diesel would be proud.
So the Rocky movies, in the Rocky-verse, they've done a good job of this. Like of course, Adrian, and later on his son, his children play a role in the movies. In the first Creed movie, there's very much a familial connection made between Rocky and Adonis.
And at the end of Creed 2, as I found out today, there is a connection between Rocky and his son and his grandson, who looks like his grandmother, thankfully.
Was today the first day you watched Creed 2?
I finally got him to.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
5 years later, here we are.
Okay. Fun movie. Did you find it fun?
It was good.
Okay. Yeah.
I won't go into my rankings of it, but
Yeah, we'll get into the rankings later with we'll let Jackson do that, but I definitely think this movie was better than Creed 2. I think this one's better.
I think that it's definitely a better story, better characters. So, like, if you're wanting a boxing movie, I don't think that this is it until the very end.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah, I agree with that.
But I think that there's a way better story than any Rocky.
This is sort of like Iron Man 3.
Creed.
It's like Iron Man 3. Less action, more drama, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about what we liked about the movie. I assume there's going to be a lot of stuff here. What's the good stuff? Jackson, why don't you lead it off?
Well, I'll steal it from Cody.
You better not.
And I will say Jonathan Majors.
The Majors-ssance.
Boy, the conversation just starts with him, doesn't it? In anything he's in.
Well, I will say most of Jonathan Majors.
Okay. Oh, don't say it yet because I think we're going to be on the same page on this.
All of Jonathan Majors was great.
Not everything. No. There is a specific thing about Jonathan Majors in this movie. And since you're our Rocky-verse geek, I'm glad you picked up on this because I picked up on it too. I don't even know what you're going to say. I'm assuming.
Well, I'll let you lay your breadcrumb trail, and I'll see if I was following along.
Okay, yeah, I'll bring it up once we get to bad stuff.
And I will bring up the psychology point of view if I think you two are going where I think you're going.
No. It had nothing to do with the mental part.
We'll see.
Okay. Cody?
It's Jonathan Majors. That's where it begins and ends.
Boy, does he look the part.
He looks the part. He acts the part. He is the part.
The dude is in great shape. He's cut.
And if I have to go with something else, since Jackson already said Jonathan Majors, Felicia Rashad, the winner of Creed 1.
Felicia Rashad. I have that in my list of good stuff, and just her name.
Yeah,
just Felicia Rashad. Just all the Felicia Rashad. She's amazing. She's kind of got that Angela Bassett quality where anytime she's on screen, just the gravitas of her is just so immense. And I feel like, if Angela Bassett didn't exist, she'd get all those roles.
Probably. Like her death was the part that I got choked up at.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, take someone else. Not Jonathan Majors, but anyone else.
Their poor daughter.
I'm going to start off very light on my good stuff. Not so much plot stuff, but the music selections in this movie, and generally with all the Creed movies, the music's been pretty good. But this one in particular starts off with a Dr. Dre song when they start you off in a flashback back in 2002. It's a song called The Watcher. And Dr. Dre's first line is, "Things just ain't the same for gangsters," right? Which kind of sets the tone for the movie. Mm-hmm. You have these two young men who are kind of in that lifestyle. They're not like in a gang, but it's that you just would have had to live through that time back then too, where like the thug rap, the gangsta rap, all that stuff, Tupac, Dr. Dre, all of that. So like the music is already setting a tone for these two men who are in a place in life where one of them is not the same anymore. He doesn't exist in that world. One of them has had his life frozen in time, and he comes back and he's still kind of stuck in that. And so that Dr. Dre album in particular has a lot of that kind of stuff, because Dr. Dre is rapping about, being a businessman now and his people coming back. In fact, there's another song on that same album called "What's the Difference Between Me and You?" And it's kind of a a letter to the people in the hood who claim that Dr. Dre forgot where he came from. Yeah. And so like that's the story. So the music selection right off the bat, as soon as it started playing, I was like, oh, perfect. This is perfect. So the music selection was good stuff for me. Great. Just great. Jackson.
Okay, let's see. What else was good? I always liked Michael B. Jordan. I don't know that I would go Denzel Washington of our time. I know that was brought up before, but I feel he's been strong, and I really buy that anger that's just underneath the surface. He's sophisticated but not civilized at this point.
Yeah, he's very good, but he can't be the Denzel Washington of our time if Jonathan Majors now exists.
Exactly.
Because I think now Jonathan Majors has a chance to be pretty special. But you're right. He never... With Jonathan Majors on the screen, when they're together, I never feel like Michael B. Jordan is outshined.
No.
I think he holds his own in the scenes. Like, Cody, just say what you're going to say. Don't make faces. Nobody can see that.
When we get to the bad things, I will.
This is an audio medium.
I'm not saying, look, I think Michael B. Jordan himself might admit that Jonathan Majors is a better actor.
You could say adequate without saying surpasses. He doesn't get completely driven under.
He holds his own.
So
against someone look, we haven't seen Jonathan Majors in many things.
Oh, I have.
But I think we can honestly say that this guy, I think he'll win Oscars.
So what I will say is a rising tide, or the tide raises all boats. And so Jonathan Majors, I think, lifts up everyone that he's in a scene with. And so, again, when we get to the bad things, you'll hear.
Okay. All right. Okay. We'll get there.
That's a tease,
We'll
I
get
guess.
there. What good stuff, Cody? What do you got next?
I really like the family dynamic of Tessa Thompson and their daughter and Felicia Rashad. Like, they all so Felicia's trying to teach Donnie about being the best man he can be, and Tessa's like, hey, I had to stop this, but we can't teach our daughter to just use her fists. She has to use her words and communicate, even though she signs, and it helps Creed's character actually develop, which throughout the franchise, he is a jabroni.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to forget that he's kind of a stunted character too, because of the things he's lived through emotionally, and that's a big part of this movie is his emotional stunting.
Which I would say, where we end with Damien and him, while Damien's a free kid, that age, I feel, is where Donnie is stunted at for most of the franchise.
Yeah.
Like a teen.
Yeah, emotionally speaking. Yeah, very much so. And boy, that's dealt with a lot in this movie. The script writing. Maybe it's because the script writing in some of the stuff we watch has taken a turn. Like, I think we can look at the Marvel movies and be like, man, there's some lines that are woof, in Ant-Man. Part of that is because they're speeding through, they're going too fast, which Disney is taking steps to try and stop, to slow down. But this movie, some of the I copied down some lines that were just perfect. I mentioned the music selection, but there's a scene where Damien is talking to Adonis's wife. And so Adonis's wife, because of her loss of hearing, has had to stop doing what she loves, which is singing, and move into producing. And so she's creating music for other artists to sing. And Damien is talking to her at a party. He says, "How does it feel having someone else sing your song?" And it's a perfect moment because he's being compassionate towards her. He's being empathetic, but also letting you in on his hang up. Yeah, where he's at. And I just found there was some lines in that I thought, man, the script writing is better in this movie than it has any right to be just like a fun Rocky-verse boxing movie.
And it's shocking that Ryan Coogler was one of the people that helped. And he was the one that wrote our Black Panther Wakanda Forever. And we had the mom moment.
So does Coogler have a hand in this movie?
He is executive produces, and I think his brother was the one that wrote.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense because I found this movie I'll say it again. It just feels like the script in this movie was rich. For it being this kind of movie, it was good. And maybe that you have good actors delivering the line. That's part of it too. If you don't have a good actor, maybe it doesn't sound so good, but there were that line I just mentioned does multiple things.
Oh yeah.
And I thought it was great. I wrote it down. Jackson.
All right. I knew you were coming to me and I completely blanked. I liked the promoter piece, and it was kind of an interesting way to go where he's out of the game, but he's not out of the game, but you're seeing a different wrinkle. It's not the Rocky movies where it's like, okay, well, where's the person he's going to fight in this one come along? And, he's always ready to fight at any point, where he's more focused on establishing and giving back to the business and, showing that because it was the first two where it's always that fraudulent piece. And now he's leaving an impact on the sport. He's solidifying the name. And
he's a Ralph Lauren model.
So I liked the promotional piece, and that was a new wrinkle that I wasn't anticipating.
Yeah. Well, at first I'm like, maybe it's because Michael B. Jordan has kind of a young looking face. I was like, is he old enough for this? He is 36 in real life, so I guess he's an older guy, and a lot of boxers would be done by then, especially if they were wildly successful in a short amount of time. I could see it.
Or you end up like Mike Tyson and it gets ugly.
Yeah, Muhammad Ali, any guys that held on a little bit too long that aren't named George Foreman.
Apollo Creed.
Yeah, well,
too soon.
Yeah, too soon, man. Come on.
So for mine, I'll say the directing.
The directing, yeah.
Yeah. Those fight scenes, intense. And then when they had you view the opponent as their younger selves, and then when you had when they're against the ropes and the ropes changes into the mattress and if the other things that go back to the trauma that both characters had faced. And so it was well done.
Wildly creative framing for the final fight in that scene you're talking about. That took me by surprise. I was like, oh, wow, we're going artistic here. And it works. It worked for me. I don't know if it works on it's not a 10 level because I was kind of taken out of it a little bit. But also I'm like, okay, I'm here for imaginative because there's how many of these movies now, Jackson?
3 or 9.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's 9. 9 Rocky-verse movies.
Don't forget about Balboa.
That's
I
I'm
did
counting.
not.
Yeah. So there's the 5 originals.
Yes.
There's Rocky Balboa, and then there's the 3 Creeds.
Yes.
And so I'm not opposed to them taking chances and trying something a little different, which they did in that scene in the final fight. And for me, it worked because the relationship is so intense, and they do a great job of fleshing out that relationship between Adonis and Damien.
Donnie.
Cody, you got anything else?
No, that was it.
I have a couple more things. Adonis, the family scenes were great. I'm gonna add a little bit to that. I don't think I'm not. I guess I'm. You're probably gonna bring up Michael B. Jordan in that acting in the bad stuff, but there were a few moments that I wrote down here in my notes. When Adonis is not dealing with his emotions well, and he's fighting with his wife, and the daughter walks in. The shame like he's hanging his head. The wife's mad. She picks up the daughter and he signs "I love you" to the daughter. Like, that was really emotional for me for whatever reason. And I thought it was so well done. Like, he's in the middle of this. He knows he's lost control of his emotions, but also in the middle of that, how much he loves his daughter, how much he knows, like, I've messed up. My daughter's seen me angry and I don't want her to see that. So I'm going to do the only thing I can think of in the moment. And that's to sign "I love you" as the mom's carrying her away. There was that. And then there is the emotional beat moment where he's finally unloading and unpacking things for his wife, all of the history with Damien. And tears start falling from his eyes, and Michael B. Jordan chooses to, like, really physically and hardly wipe the tear away as soon as it falls from his eyes, which I thought was kind of a genius kind of physical acting thing there, where it's almost like in that moment his character is ashamed of the weakness of crying.
He's an impact crier through all of the movies. That's something that it's like that brooding cry. Like, it's not the complete emotional release. It's just that, the Denzel tear.
Well, it was very noticeable because that's the one in movies that actors are known for, the tear that falls down the cheek slowly, whereas this, it gets about halfway or a third of the way down his cheek and he wipes it away forcefully, as if, like, in the moment you can tell that Adonis feels shame and that it's weakness, and he's trying to brush it away immediately. But in that way, you can kind of get the feeling, you see what he's doing. He's trying to block the emotions. And so I thought that was just a clever thing to have his character do. The other good thing is whether it's the acting of Majors, whether it's the writing, whether it's the story in general, Dame is clearly the bad guy, Damien. But even in the last fight, I'm empathizing with him, especially with some of the imaginative stuff they're doing in the ring with the prison cell appearing around him. I'm just empathizing with him. I want Adonis to win, unlike Cody, who wants Damien to win. I want Adonis to be victorious. I know he's going to win because it's a Rocky movie, and it's not the first one. So
it would have been a twist.
But the whole time in that moment, I'm remembering, oh yeah, hurt people hurt people.
Well, and before we move off of it, it might be on someone's bad list, but the fight with Marianne, I felt was pretty strong because he actually mentions the other kids that you never see, that those two mystery kids of Apollo's that are in Rocky 2 and then never seen again.
Yeah.
That they never accepted him fully into the family. And I mean, when you think about it, those are the last things he really truly says to her, and it's got a lot of weight to it. And I was surprised that they didn't have that reconciliation moment, and then the stroke happened. I mean, really, he never gets to make that right.
That made it all the more real, because, like, often the movies give us that, and the thing we find out in real life the most is people go and there's things left unsaid. I think that's the more common experience in humanity, is we don't have that reconciliation, and stuff that haunts a lot of people.
Well, and you never know when is your last interaction with this person.
Right. And so, but yeah.
And why weren't the two kids at the funeral?
They might have been carrying the casket. I can't quite remember.
No, because it was Michael B. Jordan, Duke, and someone, and like two other people, and they weren't the kids.
Yeah. Well,
Do you know that for sure?
Maybe they were estranged. Maybe they didn't like mom taking in the adopted,
Forget
son.
you, Michael B. Jordan.
I mean, we don't know. We're not privy to that. So
That's probably what the
but
two
but
kids
going
said.
back to Jonathan Majors and the character of Damien, even the face acting he's doing, where in the middle of the fight his face is overtaken by anger, only to go back in between rounds where he's just blank. He looks numb, where he's just kind of looking at Adonis. All of that, I don't know whether that's the emotion they wanted you to feel empathy for him, or he's supposed to be kind of scary. But I felt empathy. Like, I'm feeling empathy. It's like, man, this dude's so broken. They explain it in the movie that, like, what is the coach says something to him? The trainer says something to Adonis. Duke says something to Adonis.
He's showing
at some point.
himself to you.
Yeah, that this all he can do is come with violence. All he knows right now is violence, right? Because he just wants to punish for the life he thinks he should have had, right? And so, like, yeah, all of that kind of comes together, and I don't think I've ever been that conflicted watching the final fight in a Rocky-verse movie, where I'm like, man, I feel really bad for who's the guy who's supposed to be kind of the bad guy, but clearly is a conflicted character.
I did feel bad today watching Creed 2 when Drago is fighting and Mom leaves. And I'm like, oh, poor Drago.
Yeah. But Creed, like the Dragos are kind of cartoonish, and so it doesn't feel...
They're larger than life.
I felt that too in Creed 2.
I'm going to have to wholeheartedly disagree with that part.
You felt that in Creed 2.
Yeah, while Cody was watching it, I knew exactly where he was in the movie, and I told him, I said, as soon as she leaves, it's waterworks for me until end credits.
Yeah. Okay. All right. But that was the end of the good stuff for me, was just the character development is so rich with Damien and the two guys and their interaction and their relationship and everything that's gone on. It builds so slowly enough where it eases you into, they do a great job of the tension, even when Damien first gets out of prison. The conversations they have where everything's fine, they're smiling, but there's a tension to it that the actors do well without saying it.
Well, they compared it in one of the early reviews that Cody sent me to Cape Fear, and that's kind of what I walked in with. And
we're going to something way too early.
And so I kind of would call him like a great white shark, where it was like, he was just swimming under the surface and biding his time. And you never knew, like, is this going to be when he snaps? Is this going to be when he snaps?
But we know, like, if you're in ministry or Cody's realm, mental health as well, where he's in both, like, that's a very real thing where people who've been hurt, people who have real scars, people who've been just pushed down by life, they can be loving and kind in one moment, but you understand they're sharks. Like, if they sense a moment where they can get the upper hand, they're going to take it. So like that was very realistic, I thought.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Are we ready for the not so good stuff?
Well, this might be a not good or bad, but my question would be, did you find a part of this movie where you were missing Rocky? Since that's the
absolutely.
major change.
Let's just start off here. The not so good stuff.
Okay.
No Rocky? None?
No.
Is he dead?
You can thank Irvin Winkler for that.
Yeah. Is it because of the Winkler stuff? Is it because of the drama?
He's gone on all sorts of talk shows saying not so nice things.
Real life drama leaves a big hole in the movie because he's not there for Felicia Rashad's funeral. And that was a big sticking point in the first one.
That's the one place.
The reason he's mad at Rocky at first is because he didn't talk to his mom after Apollo's funeral. Like, they make a big deal about that in the first one. So him not being at the funeral, I'm just like, what?
That's the only place I would have put him.
Like, dude, CGI him in or something.
Maybe he's in the home. If she's having strokes, maybe he's had one. But then allude to it. They allude to, they do allude to another character. Am I right? I feel like they name drop a character who's not in this movie.
I think they just say Rocky one time when they're talking about selling the Majors and Felix fight.
Yeah. Yeah. That was the top of my list for not so good stuff. I'm like, I feel like he should have at least cameoed somewhere.
That's the only place I would have put him, but I didn't know if that would be important enough to make anybody's list.
I mean, it's not important.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make much sense.
It needed to happen.
Okay, right. I agree. I agree that you want to make this movie about Creed and Rocky. You don't want Rocky to be a part of it.
Toodles.
But exposition, a throwaway line that he couldn't come to the funeral because X, you know?
Because he only goes by train, and it takes 3 days.
He's having a catch.
He's got bad knees.
Robert Jr.
Yeah,
Yes.
he's in Vancouver or wherever. Okay, Cody, not so good stuff.
Okay, so I really don't have a lot. And I'll start off with the ring announcer that does the intros. His hair really bothered me.
You're getting controversial here. I think you need to calm it down.
You really had to dig. You really had to dig for that. That's what's bothering you?
I'm like, are the Buffer brothers retired? Are we not using them anymore?
I'm sure it's a sponsorship thing.
I mean, it's got to be an actual guy, right?
All that.
DAZN
everywhere.
and Showtime were the two names that were dropped during this, so I assume this guy is an actual ring announcer.
I mean, yeah, that's what I assumed. And unlike Cody, I didn't judge his appearance.
Yeah.
Like,
He's like, no.
no, like it looked like cultural appropriation.
It was weird. I'm visualizing it in my head, and you're right. He had some strange hair going on, but it must be his thing, right? It's got to be like,
Well,
maybe
if ring announcer's hair choice is your one gripe, this has got to be right up there on your list.
like let's be honest, dudes who make a living because of the way they announce boxers, that's just weird in general, right? They probably got pretty good sized egos.
All the Buffer brothers.
What a life, huh?
Yeah.
Like, you get paid. How much money you think Buffer was making every time he said, "Let's get ready to rumble"?
Oh, you can't
I
say
was
that.
going to say you
Can't
have
say
to
that.
pay him
Well,
now,
I can't
so
say
you'll
it.
find
Yeah,
out.
no, that's copyright.
I can say that he said that.
You've
though,
got to
right?
edit it out.
You do.
Just put a beep or...
I'm not editing it. I'm just. I just said what he said.
There
That's
goes
like
the pop
millions
culture pastor
of
slush fund.
dollars.
All right. Well, we'll give him if I need to give him royalties for the 2 seconds that it took me to say the stupid line.
Yeah, you never say it.
It's like
Don't say it.
It's like
Don't
the big
think it.
game.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
you don't do it.
All right. Well, we'll just mark the time there. We'll mark the time. How do I put a beep in? I don't even know how to edit. I don't know how to put a beep in.
And then
I
David said
wouldn't-
something controversial.
I said something. I don't usually say controversial things.
I mean, we don't make money off this, so maybe we're good.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. We didn't make any money. Okay. Jonathan Majors is great. Let's just start off there. He's great. He is not a boxer. Some of the training scenes, especially early on in his training, are cringy and hard to watch, comparatively speaking to everyone else. Like, look, the guy from the first movie, Tony Ballou, Conlon, boxer, real boxer. Drago, played by Florian Munteanu, boxer. These are real fighters. And when they're in the ring, they look like real fighters. When they're training, they look like they're really training because they've really done that. Even Michael B. Jordan looks pretty good when he's training. Poor Jonathan Majors. I don't know if he's just not super coordinated, but some of those early training scenes were rough. Like, I'm pretty sure the daughter was hitting the heavy bag harder than he was.
I will point out, and this is an obvious point out. The dude spent 18 years in jail.
I
or
was
prison.
expecting that.
Okay,
I will
He
counter
did
it.
not have a boxing prison league that he was a part of.
I will counter that.
I will say, I think they do a good job, especially, okay, so the choreography and the actual fights, he looks okay. because they choreograph it well. The camera work's done in a way where it makes it look like, and like they did a real good job sound editing. When he comes out of the corner, you hear the plod of his footsteps. And so I think they knew, and that Majors knows he's not a real fighter, which is something different for these movies. And you could tell I think you could only really tell it in those early training sequences where he's in the gym.
Shaking off the rust.
Yeah, where and he just looked he looked really slow, really uncoordinated. And but the way that his fighting style takes place in the actual fight, I think they work it into something that makes a lot of sense. I just don't know. I would love to hear some interviews of Majors where I wonder if he talks about, hey, that was kind of hard for me, because it's maybe he's not just like, listen, professional fighters are gifted athletes with coordination that we couldn't even approach. Like, I'm not saying, like, look, Jonathan Majors would probably beat me up bad. I'm not dogging on him. I'm saying he's not a professional fighter, unlike the other opponents that Adonis has faced in these movies, and I thought you could tell.
According to Michael B. Jordan, he thought that he actually did a phenomenal job of getting into that ring persona and actually learning how to box, and that the people that were training him, which are boxers, said, like, holy cow, this dude could actually start boxing if he wanted to.
Well, what else are they going to say?
Well, I'm just saying, we're not professional boxers, and professional boxers are saying nice things.
At the very least, he's unconventional, right? And they do a good job of showing that. The way he blocks punches by putting both of his arms up in front of his face like that and crossing them. Like, he does unconventional things, his character does, which I thought was, I'm just trying to guess as to why he does some of those things. It's because they are covering for a lack of real technical fighting ability, because he's an actor and not a boxer. But I think it works. I'm saying overall it works.
So I will say, because this is where I thought you might go, the dude's been in prison for 18 years, has been in fights in prison off and on, which I think they have a throwaway line about. And so if you're trying to protect yourself in a real life fight where you might get shivved, you might get jumped by a gang, you're going to block your face, both fists up, arms up. And so even if you are a Gold Glove kid champ, your boxing skills have been traded for more UFC-like fighting.
Well, I will defer to you because of your extensive time in the hole.
Thank you.
I'm glad we could get you out of solitary to be on this episode.
The mentors, they're the worst.
The Dementors. It's a good life. It's a good life. Okay. Anything else not so good? What do we got? Anything else? Because I have one more thing. Jackson,
I think, has some talking points on it.
Was I on the same track as you?
No.
Okay. Go ahead.
Well, now that we've got hairstyles out of the way, let me get the rest of my list.
Just the important stuff, you know?
I'll be honest. It seemed like they ramped up Majors and ramped him up and then pulled the plug on him. Because all throughout the pre-fight and everything like that, he's talking about how broken down he is and everything like that. I'm completely bought into him, and he's a threat, and he's just, this is going to be another one of those type of fights. And then nothing. And I will grant...
Well, what do you mean nothing?
Well, I will grant
he's winning the fight through most of the fight.
The end fight is creative and unique, but I didn't feel anything during it.
You didn't like it?
Not at all.
Did the extra stuff take you out of it?
I was willing to go with it, but by the end of it, it's a 12-round fight. They both look like they've been in there maybe 2-3 minutes tops. Mm-hmm. I never felt that sense that you get in every Rocky movie, every Creed movie, where this might be the end. He may be in danger, he may be in peril. I I was just waiting. How's he going to get out of this one? And I know with some of that, you can say, well, all these movies are predictable. But at the same time, I never was like, oh, that's how he counters it. Because in that first fight with Felix that we kind of went all the way over, he's in total control. He takes him apart piece by piece.
Well, and
By
there's some
cheating.
concern. There's some concern that Felix ain't going to make it.
Yeah.
Like I thought they were going to go the Apollo route.
Well, and that's what's great about Creed 2 is obviously if you're sitting there and timing the movie, when he loses that first fight, he's not going to die and they're not going to go in credits. But there's that sense of danger and that like, oh my gosh, this might be too much for him. But I never got that feeling in that end fight where there was any sense of danger, any threat at all. And that was horrible for me because with the Felix fight, it's those little things here and there, the elbow, the punching to dislocate the shoulder and everything. And then he gets in there with Adonis, who is past his prime, was 3 years off, and none of that stuff applies anymore.
Yeah, he doesn't do any of the cheap shots after the first round. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a fair critique. Because in every Rocky movie, I mean, his face is so beat up and swollen, you can barely recognize him. In fact, we recognize Rocky movies by that post-fight Rocky face. And you're right. In this movie, they make and I don't know if it's an artistic decision because there's kind of a tender moment at the end of this movie that I think we're going to talk about later, where you want these actors to maybe shine, and maybe that's why they didn't go that route of like having them with the grotesquely beat up face. But you're right. In choosing to do that, it does take away from. I think it does take away. I think it's fair to say that it takes away from.
Well, and
the idea that this is dangerous. This is a dangerous sport, and you are putting your life on the line.
Want to just completely say, okay, well, this needs to be exactly like what all the other ones were. I know that's how that sounds, but
it doesn't need to be.
I was just sitting.
You two
there.
are on an island.
I was just sitting
Cody
there
disagrees.
like,
I know this is going to sound amazing.
There's no stakes here. We spent the whole pre-fight talking about how beat up he is. He's past his prime. He's been out of the game 3 years. This new fighter who probably should have had more than one fight. That was going to be another criticism of.
We'll get to that. That's on my list.
Okay, and it just I left cold. Like I liked everybody in it. They were all great actors performing great parts and everything like that. But I was left wanting by the end of it.
Yeah. Cody, I'll let you rebut.
So, does anyone know the real life story that Rocky is based off of, Jackson?
Yes.
His name's Chuck. Chuck fought Muhammad Ali. Chuck nearly beat Muhammad Ali. Chuck was a dirty
stepped on his foot
cheater
one time.
and stepped on his foot and caused Muhammad to go down. And that's when people thought, oh my goodness, he's going to pull it off. But then he did not, because that was cheating. Jonathan Majors was a dirty cheater McCheatington because because he's older than Donnie.
Yeah.
And he's not been boxing for 18 years. They make a point of that he might have the muscle mass. He might have some of the muscle memory, but he's not going to be Drago's son, who has been training with Drago the whole time.
Oh, I understand what you're saying,
okay,
but I think
you're interrupting. But okay,
no, I know, but like, I think we just addressed that though. Why did they not have him continue the cheap shots then?
Because clearly, both of Donnie and Duke said after the Felix fight, this dude's cheating. Like, you have refs now aware of what happened. They can go back and look at the tape. Like, it's like NFL games. It's like basketball games.
But the ref doesn't say anything to him in the final fight. When in the first round, he hits him. He does the underneath the shoulder shot, and he doesn't say anything.
The closest thing.
They say, watch out. I'm going to deduct points next time.
But do you really think he was looking for a technical...
I'm just saying.
It's a Rocky movie. They're not going for the scorecards.
Yeah, we're not going to have a judge's disqualification for the end fight.
Is it a boxing movie? Because in boxing, they actually do keep score. So you do.
In boxing, they block too. So
they do block.
So
in this.
The one thing I could come up with to try and explain this to myself was when Creed's teaching his daughter, and I think it's when she's hitting the heavy bag, and he says, see, they think it's about violence, but it's about rhythm.
Yes.
So I tried to make that make sense for myself, but with what you're saying of, the cheating and everything like that, then it's like, okay, well, if that's truly all he had, then why are there any stakes to this end fight at all? Why should I be coming into this thinking there's a chance?
Okay. This is actually a great segue into...
because
one of the bad things I listed.
He can literally puncher's knockout chance.
Yeah.
And he has the strength, he has the muscle mass.
He's got a puncher's chance, and that's look, that's valid. But here's okay, this is all building to this, so this is a perfect time to bring this up. I loved boxing growing up. I love boxing. I love the sport. I was really into the sport. I'm here to tell you that there is not a boxing pundit in the world that would have had Adonis Creed as the underdog against a 1-0 fighter. I don't care how vicious the knockout was, how early it was. There is not a boxing pundit that they play Adonis up in the media stuff to be the underdog is sort of silly. I know it's a Rocky movie and that's why, but that is the most unrealistic part of the movie, that he would be the underdog, that what happens is exactly why he wouldn't have been the underdog. Because Damien is not experienced, because he's been in prison, because he only has one professional fight.
3 years retired, and he nearly killed Felix, the champion.
Okay, I know, I know that, but... Cody, I'm telling you, in the real world, there is not a pundit alive that would have, in that scenario, still said that Adonis was the underdog. I'm just telling you.
Did he not go in as an underdog against Drago, who really had no credible boxing victories?
Drago destroyed him in the first fight.
I know.
Obliterated him.
I'm just saying. Did he not go in as an underdog?
So you're saying that he should have
25 to 1 odds.
Do you know how many boxers out there are 1-0 with one knockout? That's impressive. Do you know how many there are? There's tons of 1-0 boxers with a great and impressive knockout. That is not, and because of just the thing you said, when you're a puncher, you got a puncher's chance. You can beat anybody.
And why would you be favored if that's all you had was a puncher's chance?
He also was a Golden Glove boxing champ.
Yeah, 18 years ago.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I just don't buy it. I didn't buy that part of the movie.
And I liked when he was talking about all the, I can't remember exactly, it was he's got a bum shoulder, his eyes messed up and everything. But then the final fight comes and he exploits none of that. And I know they trained him, because it was in a thing in Balboa where they're like, you can't do any of these things anymore, so we're just going to make you really strong. You got to develop some hurt bombs, I believe was the expression.
Yeah.
But so I'll say maybe they trained that out, but he exploits none of that. He's got the puncher's chance, so inherently he's the Rocky where Adonis is Apollo in that, if you're making that correlation there. But it was just never the threat. It was okay, well, Creed's a much better boxer than apparently Felix.
It went as it should, which is that the heavyweight champ, the former heavyweight champ, wins and knocks him out.
I'm calling this. I'm saying the bell has rung. I'm gonna mediate this. I think both of what you're both saying is valid. I think both of what you're saying is valid. But I think. The problem, Cody, is for your way, I think there was more context needed. And that's, I think, what you're saying, is there wasn't enough context. For instance, he punches him in the chest and drops him. And then he never goes, why didn't he try to hit him in the chest again?
For me, it's not about the boxing match. It's about all that build-up before. Mm-hmm. And the boxing match might be the culmination, but the good guy's always going to come out on top.
Yeah.
But when you have a movie that's predicated on boxing to end every movie, and then that is the coolest part of the movie, cold, not cool as in unique and exciting. I don't think you get that.
I
part.
think you do.
Let's end that discussion. I don't think we're ever going to come together on that. Let's all say it's probably not the best end fight of a Rocky-verse movie.
Oh, absolutely not.
That would be Rocky 4.
Yeah. So let's leave it there and let's go to the greatest story ever told award, the biblical stuff, because there's some stuff to talk about here. And maybe that's the point of the movie, is the scene at the end where he goes to his locker room. He leaves his celebration. He goes to Damien's locker room, and there's an overarching thing of forgiveness going on and gracious defeat, which I thought was lovely in our current world.
Yeah.
Damien's graciousness in defeat, and where they're both going back and forth and forgiving each other and say, it wasn't about you, it was me.
Mm-hmm.
My problems were my problems. They both kind of say that, and like that, they both recognize their own brokenness. And there's a lot of like real biblical themes of what, like, the things Jesus is trying to make us recognize about ourselves. And like, hey, you can't judge others because you got to look at your own brokenness. The brokenness runs through all of us. And so we can't constantly be blaming other people for our problems, And like, once you see that and once you get that, it's easier to reconcile each other.
So I think Tessa probably gets the closest to being a kind of like Christ-like person in the movie, because she goes on her little spiel of, hey, you were a kid. It's in the past. Like, yeah, we all make mistakes, but this isn't on you. You can't fix it. Like, it's all okay. Mm-hmm. We have to move on from it. And so, like, she shows grace and mercy in that, where I could easily point out it was Donnie that started the fight.
Yeah.
And like, two wrongs don't make a right. I get that guy was the worst of the worst, but you don't have to punch him.
Not to mention, Donnie does the same thing that got him into the mess in the first place. He walks into a situation wildly that could have gone south bad. Like, he walks into that beach party.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And dudes have guns and he's just acting wild. And it's like, bro, you got a family, my man.
And so, yeah, I think Tessa is that figure. I mean, Felicia Rashad has her moments of wisdom. I would want to say Duke had some, but
yeah, all the characters. Yeah, there was some wisdom in that movie. And I think for me, what I like about this movie is the moral of the story, that, that the bad guy at the end is not the bad guy. They're reconciled. And I dig that.
And also that, like, pride, being a source of the downfall. Cause Damien had a lot of pride. Like, this should be mine. I've done all this stuff. I was the one that went to jail for you and your stupidity. This is all mine. And it doesn't work that way.
The humility that comes out at the end, that where he turns from doing what we all do, the recognizing everyone else as the cause of our problems, to saying, hey, you know what? I see it now. It was always me. And Adonis's character does the same thing. He's like, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have cut you out of my life. I felt shame. So like, it's a beautiful moment. And I love that. So it carried a moral more than a lot of Rocky movies did, which I appreciated. All right. The winner of the movie. Did you have something else you wanted to say?
No.
Jackson? No?
We're good.
Okay. Jackson, who's the winner of the movie?
I might let Cody have Jonathan Majors.
No,
for one
you can take
these.
it.
I mean, you can have the same answer. It's okay. It's okay to say Jonathan Majors. You're our guest.
I will say Jonathan Majors because he's somebody like, okay, well, where do you go from here? Like, that's the story I want to follow from here. I think I'm done with Adonis. And
yeah, are we clear that this series can go on now with him Like in the later Rocky movies where Apollo is Rocky's friend and he's more of a character, it seems like that they can go forward here with Damian being a character, right?
Well, from what I've heard, it's supposed to be a definite Creed 4. I don't need it, but he's the one that I left the movie like, I wonder where he goes next. Does he fade into obscurity like Clubber Lang? Does he come back in a
he's got
future sequel?
He's got to keep fighting.
Does he start helping out the gym?
Yeah. Does he get his life turned around? Yeah, we need that answered.
Yeah.
I'm here for the Jonathan Majors.
Does he go to
redemption arc
prison because he hired a goon to hit Drago over the hand and break his hand? So that would be one of my like critiques of the movie is literally Donnie has the evidence of the photo of, oh, he knows this guy. Like, they would be investigating who broke Drago's hand.
You're bringing logic into a normally illogical movie, though.
I think it's a good selection. Jonathan Majors is in the middle of something right now where he is
A Major-ssance?
Yeah, we call it a Major-ssance here on the pod, and he is magnetic. Everything he does is just, you can't take your eyes off him. He's brilliant in this movie. His facial expressions, even in the middle of the fight, is the same kind of thing he was doing with Kang in Ant-Man, where the expressions on his face are conveying his character's position and lack of mental stability. I mean, everything. It was perfect. Perfect. Cody, who's the winner of the movie?
So I am going to go with the most surprising answer of the night.
Oh, okay. Looking forward to it.
Director Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah.
Director Michael B. Jordan is far greater than actor Michael B. Jordan.
Hey, you know what? I'm not going to argue with that.
And director Michael B. Jordan did a great job of directing. He was the one that actually said we wanted to go a Cape Fear route.
Okay.
And which you see through Jonathan Majors' character that, like, literally he stalks their basically Donnie's family and, like, weaves his way in, creates some conflict, creates strife within the gym, and tricks his way into getting what he wants, and is very evil about it. Yeah. And so, like, that storytelling and capturing it and the framing of the match, because like we have 8 other boxing movies.
Yeah.
I don't need another boxing movie. Give me something I haven't seen. And so Michael B. Jordan, the director, accomplished it.
I agree. The movie is very well put together. I mentioned the sound editing even in previously. I mentioned the spoon feeding of the original event that led him to this point. I thought all that was brilliant. The way they told the story, it was crisp. It was good. You got anything to add to that, Jackson?
The dramatic stuff, sure.
I agree with, but you did not like the fighting.
No.
Okay. Like I said, I don't think it was the best in-fight scene to a Rocky-verse movie.
Like, the drama, I was all invested in. It was wonderful. It was just
even the trash talking with Stephen A. Smith. I was all on board.
I think that's valid, but I also think your take on give us something a little different in the infight, because we've seen it 8 times. I think that's valid too.
Well, and I won't dismiss that because it is needed, because I can eat the same piece of pizza, morning, noon, and night and be perfectly fine. But eventually, you're going to want, like, hey, let's throw some seasoning on this. Let's change the crust up. And that's the thing, is I don't want my distaste for it to just defeat that out of the...
Okay. Yeah, I understand. I get what you're saying. I'm going to go a little meta with my winner of the movie. Rocky 4. Like, I didn't grow up with my dad. Rocky 4 was one of the first movies I remember when my dad. So if you had a situation like I did where your parents were divorced and you went and visited your dad on weekends, and Jackson, I know that's you. The times your dad did something with you like that, took you to a movie, are special. And I can remember shadow boxing in the lobby of that movie after him taking me to Rocky 4. When we saw the movie the other night, I took my son Lawson, my oldest son Lawson, who's not really, he's never seen any of the Rocky movies. He hasn't seen any of the Creed movies. He enjoyed this movie. And we were shadow boxing out in the parking lot. And man, I'm going to say fathers and sons are the winner of this movie because it created the same feeling for me. It brought back those feelings for me. And I hope that my son remembers this time where we went to a movie together as kind of a special thing. And so like what I want to say is just thank you to Michael B. Jordan and the Rocky-verse people and everyone that puts these movies together because
The Couglers.
this is what movies are about, right? Mm-hmm. This is why we love stuff like this. And I got to share it with my son and I don't know, it felt special. It felt special. So yeah, that's what I'm going to say. Fathers and sons, but mothers and daughters, if that's your thing, if you're into the fight stuff, good for you.
I was going to say, like, even the moments that Donnie has with his daughter, that like that could be foreshadowing to
That's
the
the rumor.
next.
Yeah, the next series is definitely a female-led fighting series, right?
Potentially.
Well,
Yeah.
and compared to Sage Stallone, she was a delight. So, as far as kids in Rocky
Burn
films,
notice.
Wow. Man, shocking Sage Stallone slander. Okay, who's the Go Get Him Next Time award? Is there a loser in this movie?
There is.
Okay, Cody, I'm gonna let you go first.
Michael B. Jordan, the actor. Like even Duke. Yes, Duke. The only other movie I know Duke for is him being in Remember the Titans. Duke, I feel, even outshines Donnie after Felix nearly dies. Like, yeah, Duke's way more invested than Donnie is, and Donnie's name's on the gym, his name's on the promotion, his name's everywhere, and oh, well, who could have saw this coming?
is it investment or shock on Donnie's side, though? Where he's just sitting there like, I can't believe this has happened, and it's washing over him that his whole promotion might be down the toilet.
There's several scenes where I think that Tessa outshines Michael B. Jordan. Felicia Rashad is constantly outshining Michael B. Jordan in every movie of the series. And you already know my feelings on Jonathan Majors. So
Man, he's going hard on
like,
Michael B. Jordan.
I'm going to let you have this, but you're wrong.
the only person that may not outshine Michael B. Jordan is his daughter. And she's too young.
How dare you? We're going his movie daughter slander?
I'm not. I'm just saying she might be the only one that didn't outshine him, and I think she steals scenes.
Yeah, I thought she was adorable.
Yeah.
I thought she was great.
Like, I wanted her to start punching kids left and right for ripping up her paper.
Jackson, do you have a loser of the movie? Who's the loser of the movie?
I was running through the characters, and I mean, they go from wonderful to no real feeling either way. I guess I would say Sylvester Stallone.
I was going to say Stallone's a realistic loser.
Yeah, I'm going to go the same direction.
I don't know where Cody's, if Michael B. Jordan refused to sign something for you, wronged you in a former life, but I wholeheartedly disagree with that. I think I don't know that he will have the career trajectory, easy for me to say, of a Jonathan Majors, but I feel he's a strong presence, and if he stays roughly within the action movies, for sure. I've seen him in some non-action movies, and I don't know where I fall on that. There's some other dramatic stuff I still need to see, but
him in soap operas.
He's great in Fruitvale Station.
I would say Sylvester Stallone is the loser, though, because we've shown that this franchise can make money without him. If this had tanked, then, he can walk into the Winkler's office and say, you took me out and look what happened.
Yeah.
So that's another one of his seminal characters with Rambo that's just
Yeah, I would even expand it from to also Sylvester Stallone and also just Rocky fans. I feel like because of the drama he has with the Winklers that we don't get a proper goodbye. Like if he's not going to be in any more movies, we should have got a proper goodbye where he passes, like we get a funeral, we get
you need him to die.
A goodbye to Rocky. Yeah. Well, or at least we know he's off with his son. He reconciled, any sort of wrap up to Rocky's story.
It's your time now, kid. And then he goes with Robert Jr. at the end of Creed 2.
Yeah.
So that was it.
I mean, I guess. I needed more of
when
a goodbye.
They do the Solo Drago movie, and maybe
that was the thing, though. That was what made Sylvester mad.
Maybe they could visit his gravesite and then have Dolph spit on it.
They're not making that movie, by the way. That's not happening. I bet money that doesn't happen.
The Solo Drago.
I'm giving the final question to Jackson and Jackson alone. Since you are the Rocky-verse expert, we will now, as the final thing, let's give our ratings, Cody, me and you. I would give this movie 8 out of 10, 8.5, somewhere in there.
For a Rocky movie, it would be a 10 out of 10.
Oh, okay.
For just a regular go to the movie theater movie, I'll go 8.
Okay.
It was fun.
Yeah, it's a fun movie. So, Jackson, you are the Rocky-verse geek of the round table. Give us your definitive ranking of Rocky-verse movies.
Okay. No pressure.
No, you're the expert.
Well, Cody and I have gone back and forth on this, or I've said things and they've gone unanswered in the messenger chat is more like it. But my life has revolved around trying to figure out between 3 and 4, which is my favorite. And I've finally come down on the decision that 3 is a better movie, 4 has better fights.
Okay.
So I'm going to go 3, 4, Creed 2.
Wow. Okay.
Rocky original, Rocky 2, Creed 3, Rocky 5, Rocky Balboa.
That is slanderous. Rocky Balboa is worse than Rocky 5 for you?
It
is.
I had to come to Cody hat in hand because I heard him talking about that and I'm like, that was a delight of a film. I remember watching it and enjoying myself, shadow boxing, running the stairs at the theater over it. And then I realized, because I hadn't watched it back, and I was like, okay, I'll throw it in. And I took the ride with 5 as well. And I'm like, this is not good. This was not needed. And then I realized if Creed had never happened, this is probably perfectly okay. But Creed coming along and just surpassing it in every possible way made me realize how unnecessary it is. And
okay,
Rocky
it's your moment. I'm not going to argue with you.
Really should have stopped at 4.
I would agree.
And then you could have launched into Creed.
I would say that's probably the canon they're sticking to, even.
Yeah,
because Rocky 5, there's no reference to any of the story in there.
Can I give the reason why I am the way I am about this, though? So, like with Dumb and Dumber, there's actually a sequel before Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels make a sequel.
Yeah.
And it has completely
it's
different...
a prequel.
Prequel.
It's a prequel.
Yeah. And it has completely different actors. You can't write off something that has your main face. Sylvester Stallone's a known quantity by 5. Huge quantity by Balboa. You can't write that off. Now, if you had recasted, it's like if they had replaced Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween. Okay, yeah, don't count those movies. Only count the ones that Jamie Lee's in.
Yeah. I'm not, when I say they acted like it wasn't in the canon, I'm not saying we should act like it. I'm just saying they make no reference in the Creed movies to Balboa or 5.
Cody and I've had Rocky Drago fights over retcon.
Yes.
Okay. We'll leave it there, though. I don't want to. They're your rankings, and I gave it to you, so that's what we're gonna. I wouldn't have them exactly the same order, but they're pretty close, I think. Thank you for listening to Pop Culture Pastor. Of course, we have 3 drops throughout the week. Don't sleep on the radio pod drop and the watch-alongs. The season finale of Last of Us coming up next week.
As we are in the Pascal verse.
The Pedro Pascal verse, just taking care of orphans.
Yes.
So make sure and put that on your radar as well. As usual, if you haven't subscribed, subscribe to the pod, rate and review us, and remember. Oh, also thank you to Jackson for coming by. And remember, it's not about how hard you can hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. That is how winning is done. Good night and good luck.